Good afternoon, everybody. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Yeah, perfect. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Hopefully everyone had a fantastic trading day today. Here in about 15 seconds, we have the U.S. Baker Hughes oil rig count coming out. So I'll leave the audio going real quick for financial juice to get that covered, and then we'll rock and roll. Still waiting. U.S. Baker Hughes. Want to throw a report on there anytime soon?
We are still waiting on the US rig count data for the week from Baker Hughes. Meanwhile, we are hearing from the CDC.
Why does he sound like he's in a tunnel?
Variant does illness in vaccinated people.
I'm going to turn that down. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not sounding right. Anyway, welcome. Mic check, screen check. It looks like everything's working correctly here. Welcome to the daily afternoon market recap and offering overview, and along with that, we'll take a look and see if we can find any scalps on the S&P and have some fun this afternoon and roll into the weekend with a big smile on our face, hopefully. Over the next 30 to 60 minutes or so, we're going to be covering what took place today and the trade setups that presented themselves per the rules outlined in our Day Trading Academy and the VIP trade plans. I will talk about every setup that presented itself today, or the lack thereof, but remember, not all patterns and setups are created equal. The ones that I cover here in this review don't use common sense filters whatsoever. Going long in a massive downtrend or short in a massive uptrend, perfect. Shorting at the bottom of a range, that's totally fine too. It doesn't matter. You get the picture. I do this to ensure total fairness in the patterns and the setup review so that there's no cherry picking. Don't forget, before we kick this off, smash the like button below and let the YouTube algorithms know what's up. Heck, while you're at it, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe as well. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. We go live typically every trading day at 1300 Eastern to cover all the setups throughout the day. If you want to hang out with me and the rest of the VIPs for the entire US morning session instead of the afternoon, you can register for a 1-week free trial to our private VIP live trade room to see how we trade the markets in real time while they're moving during the New York Stock Exchange Open. Plus, when you register for the trial, you also get our 24-page guide to risk reward, along with access to schedule a 30-minute phone call with me to discuss any questions that you may have about joining as a member or anything else. And the best part is, it's totally free. There's no credit card or anything else like that, so make sure to register soon so you can get on the calendar before the spots fill up. If you have any questions about what we offer, what's available, and anything in between, we do a Q&A time after the charts while we're trying to hunt around for some S&P scalps, so we'll definitely make sure to get you covered. With that all out of the way, I'm just mashing words together now. Let's take a look at what happened today on our old buddy, the NASDAQ. So let's get this out of the way, and let's pop the news. We can just tuck the news behind there. There we go. So as far as today is concerned, you'll notice there's only one loan setup. Just one. That's it. We did have quite a bit of back and forth, but today, the way that it moved, it just started rallying from like midnight. So there's really no way to get in on that move unless you were trading then. And on the rotation down, there was no pattern until it finally tried going up. No pattern again, thankfully, because those both were massive failures. And then it finally turned around to the downside, giving a bounce 3 for a plus 2R. So there's only one trade today that would be a plus 2R, and that kind of wraps it up. Now, for me, I did not trade Monday or Wednesday. So my review and everything I didn't do on Monday or Wednesday, and I don't have those numbers in here because I don't know how I would have I don't know how I would have traded them. We can go back and we can kind of guess what would have happened, but if we combine that with yesterday, today is a positive, again, 2R, right? So with a positive 2R, then we have another 2R here, so that's 4 minus 1 gives us 3. I did not trade Wednesday. We go back to Tuesday, and there was another minus 1R. So that gives us a 2R week, and again, I didn't trade Monday either. So as far as the week, it's a little bit calm, a little bit quiet, and overall ending at a positive 2R. Now, as far as the overall back and forth movement goes, you'll notice I do have a couple markings on the chart here. There was a lot of really, really interesting price developments that had taken place today that really kind of, really solidified a lot of things in this max greed and break even and all of that. One of the things that we saw today, obviously, when we first kicked off was a really, really big jump to the upside. Right? We had a really nice cycle up. We hit that 8:30 news this morning and it went screaming higher. And after the 8:30 news went screaming higher, we had a nice little flag pullback, and then it went continuing on its way back up towards the highs. Hey, Bram, how's it going? Good afternoon, my friend. So once we had that continuation back to the upside, we were kind of seeing, okay, well, is this going to be a little inside pullback? Are we going to go back up? Is this going to be a failure? A lot of bulls are going to be looking for a continuation phase. It didn't work. But when those bulls failed and started cycling down, here's the thing, nothing really set up here. We just went straight down, and then from there kind of made a double bottom and then a wedge and started reversing the other way. So there really wasn't any patterning to go short within that range, and then it tried cycling up. After the bullish cycle to the upside, we have another attempted continuation inside the range. They finally break higher low, and just not enough to actually get a pattern. The unfortunate thing here is that the zone of interest was this blue box area, did not actually get a test, and then it finally cycled back above the POC where they rotated higher, and I just missed the entry. There's nothing you can do about it. Then cycled back lower and finally gave a pattern that actually wanted to play ball. That offered up the bounce 3 for a +2R. But again, if we break this down a little bit further, there are a lot of other excess opportunities inside of there, because what really took place, if we look at the earlier move, right, go back all the way to over here, we have an incredibly persistent downtrend, right? Very, very persistent downtrend. And with such a strong downtrend, it's very realistic to assume that sellers are probably going to be trying to sell for a continuation, right? That would make sense. So if we go along with that mentality, a lot of sellers above the previous swing, above this swing, looking for a continuation, you get the idea. And, well, it did work kind of, sort of, depending on the swing they were using. This previous one here may have offered up a nice little 2-to-1 move. If they were using this swing for a larger stop, there was likely a scalp. A lot of different variations, but either way, we know that the sellers tried. That's the important part. And when they failed and rotated back up, we see their point of interest at 16,180, where they got just slammed. After that slam and the rotation back to the upside, a lot of stops getting hit and a rotation higher for it. Probably one of the most obvious flags I think I've seen in a very, very long time. Super, super obvious flag. Either way, we had a nice little flag formation with a breakout continuation. Little sideways after the poke on the highs, and really this was more of a back flush to re-up on the previous longs. It still looked like the bulls had a lot of movement left in the tank, and well, by the time they actually got down there, you'll notice it got pretty jumbled up, and I, along with a lot of people, got jumbled up in that mess right before it finally had that upswing. Welcome to life, right? And that's been how this week has been operating, but we had a really, really nice slide to the downside into a beautiful pennant formation, pennant breakout for a quick little squeeze, started retesting back up into the POC that they had broken out underneath, gorgeous rotation back down for another cycle, re-upped off of that cycle once again for another move, and this one I missed. I tried getting that rotation, I tried picking it up, and I was not fast enough. It just went without me. I did try to grab it a little bit later on for that continuation phase, and they did not get it going. I got the first couple, didn't work, got the additional one down here, and eventually just ended up exiting predominantly at break-evens. It just didn't go. So, oh well. Once we had that cycle to the downside, the sellers offered up a beautiful rotation inside of here. And this area is one that I'm going to have to cut and paste as a recording on YouTube, I think, because the way that they played this was just absolutely incredible. We came back into the zone of interest for sellers to press back. Now, you notice I wasn't the first one to the party here because today has been incredibly vindictive, and we were looking at it as a zone of support. So I don't want to short the first time around. But once we've gained some interest, we can come back in, look for the short continuation. Now, immediately after the short literally immediately within a second, if that, it snapped down right away, down plus 19, 20 ticks. Straight back up again. Shorts pile drive back in, dumped back down to the scalp, pulled back up, dumped back down to the scalp. But this one took a little time. They hovered, adding, finally flushes down. More scalp targets, pops back up. Looked like they were going to lose the grip. They missed the stop by a tick. Okay, so talk about putting pressure on. I reduced one of the remaining just to play it safe, but it did eventually cycle its way back down to the target and even continued further down. And this is a really one of those examples that you hear me talk about a lot, where just because it's a singular entry point and a singular exit point and a singular target and all of that, doesn't mean that algos and all of that fun stuff can play ball inside of here. There's a ton of scalping opportunities when there's positioning going on. And if you can get a couple in there, you can kind of optimize it to fit. Nice little back and forth phasing inside of that. Just incredible inside of there. We did have the follow through after that break-even bounce, which, you know, again, I don't want to necessarily buy the falling knife. It did bounce there really nicely, but geez, I'm not a big fan of juggling on a Friday. It did end up rotating down, missed the maximum greed target before cycling back up, and it looked like the bulls were going to take it until right there. That bull bar up, which was a very strong cycle of I mean, look at all of the wicks on the bottom. They're just gobbling it up like it's going out of style. And then this bull bar shows up and traps them all. Right? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Now, it's only a little bitty scalp, but that's what that follow-through was. Just a continuation. Only gave one, only gave a scalp, and then we land where we are. They did eventually achieve their max greeds objectives to the downside, and now we've got a rotation higher. The big question now is, how do they want to continue? How are they going to keep this train going? We've got some really strong bullish momentum on the S&P, very strong bull bars up. The last couple cycles higher, we had a, let's see here, started off on an L4, then an L2, then an L2, then an L3. Broke out higher into the ones, which finally kind of worked. They never did make a new high. Cycled down to a 2. So we've got a little bit of disappointment. The bulls wanted this to cycle up aggressively no, I'm sorry, not there. Here. And it failed. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't keep going, obviously, but there is a concern that we're going to have some disappointed traders here. Let's see how they want to play ball. The S&P has just a monster string of bull bars all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're working on the 7th candle. 3.5 minutes left on this bar. If we can get a little inside pullback down underneath that last bar, that wouldn't hurt my feelings down in the 94s, especially considering there's still 3.5 minutes left. If they run out of time, I'll start losing a little bit more interest. NASDAQ doesn't really have anything going on for it. Overall, it's just a gigantic range. The bigger picture, from the bigger perspective. Whoops. Thank you, Financial Juice, but you can just hang out over there. The major perspective on the NASDAQ is something that we were talking about actually yesterday morning in the YouTube members morning brief. This was one that we had this really, really strong cycle off the L5, and there wasn't a single L2 pullback until they finally came back and got it. What a bounce. Holy moly. Now, again, I've talked about this before. Taking along underneath the moving average is incredibly difficult. But with that amount of support, you can see after the bounce, they weren't shy on the 4th time. And now we're off to the races back to the top of the L1. This is still a zone of concern way up here. We're back to the wedge base. This is where the previous longs would have gotten in, trying to get this to go up, and failed. Now, they may want to get out at break even. They obviously have shown that they did. Now it's just a matter of, can the bulls work their way through this? So, I mean, the trend's attempting to get bullish, but it's got some issues. S&P's got a minute and a half. A minute and 40. If they can fill it soon, I'll still be okay with it. If we get down to like 40 seconds left, though, I'm not going to be interested. Ugh, and they're to the tick bouncing off of the top of that resistance zone. We'll see how they want to play ball here, but this may want to try to pressure down and grab a vindictive little stopper underneath this low. Something that we've got to kind of pay attention to. NASDAQ's just hovering around, not really doing a whole lot of anything. S&P, come on. 15 seconds. It's going to require like a miracle to get this filled in the next 10 seconds here. Nope. All right. Gonna have to wait. Really, really nice continuation phasing going on. We've got 40 seconds left on the move, or on the candle, rather. From the top all the way down to the bottom as far as order flow is concerned. On the NASDAQ, we had their predominant balance points back at 16,225. It's a really nice area, and the fact that it rotated back above that and held as support, wow. That's nuts. Then after that, going all the way to where we are now, it's not really changed a whole lot.
We are shortly expecting the results of the Fed's reverse repo facility usage.
Let's see, you've got 95 quarter. I almost don't mind 94 quarter. I just don't know that it's going to make it to that point. I love that like buried wick that they have back there. They've got 4 minutes 40 left, so I mean, there's plenty of time. Let's see. If I'm going to build in, chances are I'm going to get filled at 50, right? I mean, let's be real here. There's a very slim chance that I get filled at 94 quarter. So I'm going to assume then that 93.50 would have to be the residual after that. See how much of a dipperino they want to give us. If at all. Right? They might not at all. Still kind of continuing through.
15 to 77 counterparties take 1 spot 507 trillion at the Fed's reverse repo operation.
And he's still in a cave. What? What? No. Say it isn't so. What kind of crap was that? Okay. Oh, that's, you know, fine. Sure, whatever. That's all good. 2 ticks away from where I wanted it. Sure. Why not? That's incredibly frustrating. Wow. Well. I suppose the next spot then would be a little lower. 94s down to the previous low. Underneath that last candle. They've got basically 3 minutes left on this bar. Given how quick this thing's snapping, I'm kind of curious to see if they want to get a little bit of a phase back. See if they can get a quick snap. We know it's possible. Bulls, they're trying. And here we sit. Market's still looking for some kind of pullback, if possible. Would be awesome to see it get back down to the 92.50s for like longer than a millisecond, and then miss me by 2 ticks on my on my market order. That's great. Cool. Yeah. Got a minute left on the current bar. As far as the nothing has really changed from this morning, so I mean the trader's math hasn't really changed a whole lot. If we get a couple more trades, we'll go over it one last time and then probably call it quits. Missed my entry point there by a handful of ticks. Jeez, what a candle. All right, well, as far as the S&P is concerned, there will be some back support at around the 96s. I would even prefer to see if they could get something like 95.75. Or even 50. This thing's kind of whippy-slippy. We'll see what they're able to do. There could easily be a lot of support on the 96.50 for a continuation phase to the upside. Just noting how aggressive this is. So the overall move that we had, obviously, the earlier shorts didn't work out at all. They had the continuation up and got dumpstered. Although, to be fair, it did go a little ways in their direction, I guess. Whether or not that was good enough, I don't know. We can guess. Right, if we look at where their POC would have been from the bottom up to the top, we've got, yeah, look at how obvious that POC is too. So from the top to that area, they hit their 2-to-1s. So even shorting after a massive move to the upside, based on their average, they got their 2-to-1 objectives. Job done. Probably why this has been going up so aggressive, because nobody's really left to sell. All the shorts got their targets. Cool. Holy crap. All right, well, there's that snap down that we were talking about. It jumped up, hit the target almost immediately, and no fill yet. Golly. $95.50 demonstrating support, shifting up towards the target. No fill yet. That was a psychotic quick slash to the downside. And swept out of the remainder. Nice. Beauty. Nice little pop back to the upside again. I think it was a pretty good call on that deeper dip. It just made more sense down in the 95.50s. I wasn't expecting it to look like that, but I mean, hey, sure, I'll take it. A point a day. Woo! S&P, nice little scalp so far. And you'll notice, I mean, as soon as they filled the targets for the scalpers, that thing backed off fast. That's all the bulls were looking for. That quick pop down probably scared the crap out of them. If they were looking for more, a lot of targets probably moved down pretty quick with how fast that dropped. Like, well, let's see if it's going to go up. It's not? So remember, we don't have really any large support until like 89, 89.50. I have been failing miserably at getting properties in the Bronx area and Upland. It has not been working out in my favor at all. All I've been getting is the spinning wheel of death. Every time I tried to purchase while it was going on, it just span. I got nothing. There were some people who picked up some. There were some people who couldn't get any. There were some people that bought probably way more than they should have. But I personally didn't get anything in the Bronx. Really disappointed in how that all worked out. But There'll be more. They just did another stress test today from 9 Pacific Standard Time, so it was at noon Eastern. From noon to noon 10. If you did a paid send, you were put in a raffle to get some spark or something. I don't know. So they're still doing stress tests.
Does not exclude the possibility of direct negotiations with the president of the Russian Federation in Donbass, as this is supported by Europe and the US.
He's down a tunnel or something. Bulls trying to creep this back to the upside on the S&P with a nice little dip. And now the market just kind of sitting. Looking at the way that this moved, right? We had the original entry, and let's say as an example, they didn't get a fill. I don't know how they wouldn't have gotten a fill there. It went 2 ticks through it, but maybe they were late to the party, and we have a cycle down. So they've got 1 point offset. They just got their break evens, which is still technically 1 point. That's a very common scalping approach, and we're seeing a response there, something to pay attention to. They're going to really need to have to close above those 95.50s to keep this going. Otherwise, that deeper pullback down to 89.50, 89 makes a little bit more sense. Bitcoin kind of slapped back down to the intermediary lows, I guess, but as far as I mean, we can see what's going on. It's just not proving anything. We got falling resistance. We've got a perfect wedge break and retest of the crux point. Perfect. Let's see what they want to do. Still got a little time left. Might be able to find a couple more opportunities here. Remember, if you're finding the market to be incredibly confusing and frustrating, and this week especially has not been an easy walk in the park, maybe it just hit your stop to the tick, or maybe it didn't fill you 17 times in a row. I know the pain. Consider saving yourself the cost of a monitor and sticking your fist through it and jump in the 1 week trial. The 1 week trial is totally free. You get to hang out with me and the other VIPs in the live trade room every business day that we've got the room going from 9 to 12 Eastern time. So a solid 2.5, 3 hours of trading time at the New York Stock Exchange Open. Trial members also gain the 24-page PDF guide and the ability to schedule a 30-minute call to sit down and talk about any questions that you may have about joining up. Of course, if you're looking for a morning plan, we also do the YouTube members morning brief, which is from 9 to around 9:20 to 9:30, where we get our entire morning game plan together, and YouTube members can hang out with us in that morning session. You can click the join button underneath for more info on that. Market's just kind of hanging out. It's not doing anything where it is now. I mean, looking at the bigger picture, going into the weekend and kind of gauging what may happen next week, I mean, obviously we've got this beautiful 5-wave structure to the downside and a huge reversal up. After that reversal cycle on the S&P, the moving averages crossed up. They're in the correct orientation. The market's making higher highs, higher lows. Everything, right? This is what a trend needs. So in order to maintain this trend, we can see that we've got an original cycle off of an L2, crept its way up into an L1, and now we've got another pullback into an L1. If the bulls can maintain strength and break another L1 through the highs, then the assumption would be that they continue that L1 to L2 pullback structure and keep this thing going. And that would mean that the S&P would be back up above the 4,800s possibly, as upside targets are around 4,806. So nice little upside objective going into next week if they can get it going. And from a structural perspective, this 4th wave dip on the lows was almost perfect. The only thing that would make it even better would be an inside pullback to the previous swing 4's low. I'd be right there. That would be bonkers. That would be incredible. If we look at the overall volume structure to see if anything also lines up with that, perhaps stuck shorts, likely from down here. Now the volume node's probably up a little further. Oh, don't load. Please don't mess up. There we go. Oh, what? Okay. So first off, whenever I see a POC that looks like this, I've got to ask myself something. We've got to see, well, if it looks like this, what have the sellers been satisfied? I mean, if they sold from the top and their average was right there, are they hitting targets? And when we look, sure enough, they're hitting their targets. So even on the 60-minute perspective, from the sell side, the sellers are still hitting targets. They might only be scalpers, but with this last rejection right there, that is an incredible amount of information. That's huge. And then the last wick down came back to bury itself down at the close as opens. Holy crap. Now we're back above the POC. I mean, you can see the bulls are really trying to get this thing screaming into next week. And this kind of rejection off the L1 lows, that's the kind of fuel to the fire they need. Whether or not they're going to be able to keep it going, we'll have to wait and see. But if the bulls were going to buy above this last one, they would force them to buy at 97.25. And a stop would be below that, so obviously this doesn't fit anything. This would need to back up on itself. More. So it would have to go up and then pull back down to 96.25 to actually trigger it in. Do I have two financial juices open? That's why he's echoing. I'm being an idiot. Okay. Hang on a second. Let me turn one off. There we go. We good now? Just the one? He's not in a tunnel. My head's up my butt. That's what it is. We've got a nice little pullback down here with a possible level of support. I mean, man, you can really see the support the bulls are trying to creep into this. But if they fail, there's nothing left to hold them. It's all the way down there. That's a really tough spot. The risk is really high. Keep in mind, along the way, while we're waiting here, if you are considering one of the VIP packages for the live trade room, all 3 of the VIP packages come with live trade room access included, no extra fees or anything like that. And plus, when you sign up for any of the 3 VIP packages, you also get a couple one-on-one calls that are 1 hour long, anywhere from 3 to 10 calls, depending on which package you sign up for. That way we can get your trade plans going, we can get your computer set up, we can get everything going so you're on the right foot. Remember, though, I'm human, so time slots are left to availability. They got a double bottom on the low. Ooh, man, what a mess. We've got the one scalp out of the way. Let's take a look at the overall numbers for the week here and see how this week played out. What is today? The 10th. The beginning of the week was the 6th. All right, from the 6th to the 10th. Oh, don't close it. Where'd it go? There it is. Dollars and cents aside, again, I don't care about the dollars and cents. I care about making sure that we're trading properly. As long as we're trading properly, the dollars and cents should follow, right? So the idea here for the week, we've got 76 total trades. Obviously, from the patterns perspective, we already talked about the patterns. For the week on the patterns, it's a +2R, kind of a calm week, but I also didn't trade Monday or Wednesday, so is what it is. SOCKS, right? For the overall room as a whole, for me, 76 total trades, 73 of which were losses. 73.68% of which were wins, minus the losers, times the average losing trade, which is 13 ticks. 73.68 is the winning math, times the average win of 20, minus the losing math, gives us a trader's math this week of a 1,131.44. Normally, a week in trading for like an average, I would say, would be between like 600 and 900. So pretty straightforward. It's solid average for the week in terms of how things played out, especially considering I didn't trade that many days this week. Looking at the overall largest and largest loser, we've got the largest winner at 133, largest loser at 35. This was definitely a scalping week. Even with that, it did offer up some really nice runs too, so it's kind of the best of both worlds this week. We'll take it. Hopefully you also had a good week of trading. If you have any trades this week that you have any questions on that you want me to cover for you or you want me to take a look at, or If there's any markets or stocks or coins or anything else that you want me to look at for you, feel free to drop those in. Move into training time a little bit more here. Not going to be super interested in putting on a whole lot more risk here as we go into the weekend. It's always tough, you know, like you get towards the end of the day on a Friday and it's like, man, all it takes is one trade to go awry because someone says something on the mic and your whole week is shot. That makes it a little bit difficult to want to put that risk on the table. We'll see what they want to do. Next week could be incredible. That could be absolutely nuts. Santa Rally, here we come. Don't forget, along with the VIP packages, they also come in the VIP Plus and VIP Elite packages have the APN Plus. Huge added safety net value for new traders. This allows you to create a safety net that you can rely on should things go south in trading. It does happen, unfortunately. At least it's a way that you can hedge against that. Not to mention that you can also gain rewards along the way. So the longer you don't use the APN Plus rewards as a refund, then you get even more. It's kind of cool. You get paid to trade properly and not blow up. So even if you don't end up using it ever, you can refund out later on down the road if there's a cool vacation that looks neat, and you can celebrate your trading with it instead. If you want to know more info on that, that's at the top of the page, APM Plus on the main page there. If you're looking for a more budget-friendly approach, especially going into the holidays as well, I totally understand. Kids are not cheap, man, I tell you. We do also have payment plans on all VIP packages ranging as low as $84 a month for 12 months, so it makes it a lot more affordable, so you don't have to worry about getting dinged on not getting an iPad this Christmas for your kids. Don't want to upset them now. Don't forget about the 1-week trial registration as well. That link is on the description page as well as the main page of SSFTG. So, final call for questions. We'll wrap up. See what all is going on, then we'll go into the weekend. For those of you who are ducking out going into the weekend, like we always say, and I say this 100 times, we make more decisions than most people make in one day than most people make in a week. I mean, seriously, the amount of decisions that we have to make as day traders is ridiculous. And so because of that, the weekend is incredibly valuable. At least take one day off to get some solid mental rest, and that way you can come back on Monday ready to rock and roll. Next week will be the last full week of trading, and then we go off into the holidays and Christmas and New Year's and all that other stuff. So next week will be the final full week. So if you're looking to get in on a trial before the end of the year, I would recommend registering for next week, unless you want to wait for the new year. Going into the new year, I definitely have a lot of really cool ideas that we're going to be pushing as well. I'm super excited for 2022, man. Oh, I'm pumped. Plus, I mean, let's be real. Let's get 2020 and 21 out of the way. This been garbage. Be gone. S&P diving lower, and this is important because the bulls, if they were looking to get that rotation back to the upside, they never triggered above the bull bar. Now we have a bear bar cycle lower. That's no longer valid. And with this overall movement, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, you know, what are they pulling back for? Are they trying to get back down to something that got left behind, or are they trying to build a balance point? We have a POC on the S&P, just on the impulse, just from the bottom to top, that gives us a relatively obvious point. And if the sellers are going to be placing a stop above the top and their entries there, their scalp targets are just below that range, 1-to-1s, 2-to-1s. The 2-to-1 lines up pretty nice. So it still seems like sellers are trying to get something going. And that 2-to-1 lines up nice. All right, bears still breaking down underneath the last low. 46.95 on the S&P is the POC of that move. And as we can see on the NASDAQ side of things, they hit their break evens, they got their max greed target, and we have a reversal directly out of that area. Who would have thought? I really thought they were going to grab that carnage, but they couldn't quite make it. That might have made the rest of the day look totally different if they hit that. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, and I am not really interested in putting any more risk on the table. I would rather just close out the week and call it a good week and rest up and get ready for the week ahead. So if you did have any questions that I may have missed along the way, you feel free to shoot me a message, drop a comment below. On the main page of SSFTG, there's a contact form at the bottom. Whatever you need to use, you can get a hold of us, and we'll get those taken care of. But that's going to do it. I don't really see a reason to do anything else here. Not without putting ourselves in the line of fire, you know? So, again, if you need anything, any info about becoming a member or anything else, shoot me a message at my email, jhb@ssftg.com. We can get you all sorted out from there. Have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you had a fantastic trading morning. And, again, go into the weekend, get some rest, and then we can rock and roll and go into the final week of the year. Hopefully it's a powerhouse of a week, and we can rock it out. So enjoy the weekend. Have a fantastic one, and we will see you all back on Monday morning. All right? Talk to y'all later. Thanks.